A century with the dam.
The Hydroelectric Dam in Iowa Falls was built in 1925 and changed everything in Iowa Falls from 1926 onward. Familiar sights disappeared and wondrous new things became available. The owners of the dam over the years have had electrifying names like the Central States Power Company, Iowa Electric Light and Power, Alliant Energy, North American Hydro, Renewable Energy, and 06 Energies. When you are in Rock Run Park, always remember that the dam itself is now private property. Please be respectful. Do not vandalize nor trespass. Dams of any kind are extremely hazardous. Do not approach them nor take any chances around them, even if you are an excellent swimmer or very experienced with your watercraft. Let's go inside now for a guided tour. Here I am today in the Hydroelectric Dam. I'm inside the bowels of the dam. And I'm here today with Mr. Scott Lawson, who is the lighthouse keeper or the current caretaker of the dam, who understands how these things work. Scott, why don't you just tell us just very briefly what we're looking at?
Well, of course, it's underpinned, the turbine runner went bad about 11 years ago when it was Renewable World Energies. Now we're under new ownership of a company out of Minnesota called Energy 6. And of course, this right here is where the Alice Chalmers generator was set, and that's all original from 1925. That's the original generator. And it would sit on here, and then the shaft would go down into the turbine pit room where the turbine runner would set. And that room would fill up with water and spin the generator. Paul's going to show you down in there. Let me get a flashlight. So there's the pit where you can see the draft tube right there, and then that's where the turbine runner would sit down in there. And then of course there'd be all the plates and wicket gates, 20 of them that go around there, and that room would fill up with water. So, of course, there's the control panel. I think that was installed in, I don't know, 2005. And that's when the company at the time was called North American Hydro. And they bought this plant, Maquoketa and Anamosa from Alliant Energy. So, before they bought it from Alliant Energy, North American Hydro updated their control center. They put this thing in here, which is the electronic gate opener, which would open and close my wicket gates down there, which by opening it up and letting more water into the runner, I could create more electricity. And that generator there, I could get 540 to 600 kilowatts I could make with that generator. And that would be at full output. That's the way that works. So like I said before, the turbine went out about 11 years ago, and the new company informs me that they are going to get this running again. But when they took over all these hydros that Renewable World Energy had, I think, don't quote me, but I think it's maybe around 15 or 16 hydros they bought. So when they'll actually start on this, I'm not sure, but I think it'll be fairly soon.
It takes a lot of skill to run a fully operational hydro dam.
And here's our metering. This is where I would register my kilowatt hours and have to, so we knew how much power we made. And of course, that is where the power would go out to the substation and come back in. And I don't know if you can see that, but that's an electric hoist that they brought when to grab the turbine and other parts out of it. And there's the big 10-ton overhead hoist, which is original. We've used that a few times. And, well, it would be nice to get this running again. I generated for quite a few years there, and I made some pretty good power. Of course, that all depends on how much water is coming downstream, but usually on a full output, I could do almost around 13,000 to 14,000 kilowatt hours in a 24-hour period. So that's pretty good for one generator. We are up above the powerhouse. And if Paul swings over here where this opening is, that's where my head gates would be. So if I was generating electricity, they would be raised up out of the water. And then over here is where the intake for the turbine, that's where the water would come in through the intake rack. And then if Paul shows down there towards the south, that's above the Tanner gates, and that's my hoist down there. That's all original from 1925 too. And it's raining here. And of course we got the buoy lines out there. I get out. They like to have them out by the 1st of May, but sometimes we got high water and the gate open too far, so they don't want me going out there for safety reasons. And it's starting to rain.
It never rains, it pours.
Here we are above the dam. Here we are. And there's our fancy new bridge. Paul picked the best day, raining. And then over, if Paul swings to his left, you can see the gate hoist. That's the main thing right there. That's what I lower and raise the big floodgates with. Concrete needs a little work, but so far it's all safe. I walk across there. So I could, in the years past, lately, last quite a few years, hasn't been much ice going out, but I think we all remember a few years ago we had that bad ice out. And I had there's 3 gates here, I had all 3 of these all the way out of the water. And there was so much ice coming down that it started backing up. But it was sucking it out downstream, but there was so much of it. I thought I was going to take the whole gate hoist off, but luckily it never did. Anyway, Paul's looking downstream. It's a beautiful river. It's this is one of the best places in